welcome to CabCo Collective, your source of community, entertainment, and information. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Caitlin.
And we are here with Dr. Grant Campbell.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
Dr. Campbell, he is a partner at the Copperfield OB-GYN. He's a practicing physician in the area for over 20 years. He's received his degree in health policy and administration with honors and a minor in chemistry at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He received his doctorate of medicine at UNCCH while serving as student body president, and received the Shull Scholarship given to a student based on academic success and leadership potential. He served as a trauma surgeon in the U.S. Army Reserve with one deployment between Kuwait and Iraq and 2 deployments to Afghanistan. He received, among others, 2 Army Commendation Medals, the NATO Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, the Afghanistan Service Medal, and the Meritus Service Medal, honorably discharged in 2017 as a lieutenant colonel. He's a board of advisors to the Independence Fund and the Interpreting Freedom Foundation. He also is the board of directors for the University of North Carolina General Alumni Association, the president of the Southeastern OB-GYN Society, the vice chairman for the North Carolina State Board of Community Colleges, and he lives in Cabarrus County with his beautiful wife of 26 years, Anita. He's got a daughter, Maya, that lives in New York, and he's currently doing neuroscience research at Columbia University, so clearly the brilliance runs in the family.
Like your mother.
And his son, Nathan, is currently a sophomore at American University in Washington, D.C., and is pursuing a degree in international studies.
You've accomplished a lot and look really young.
It is rare that I am told I look young, so I take that all day long.
So you were already kind of in your career when you joined the Army, then, correct?
I was. Well, it was a roundabout story. I was initially going to join the Marine Corps right out of high school.
Okay.
My grandfather, who was the person I admired more than anything in the world, he was a 30-year Marine.
Wow.
But interestingly, he was the one that said no.
Really?
And I was like, well, I don't understand. He said, well, you're going to go to college first. And after college, if you want to go into the military, you can go in as an officer. So that became my plan. And then I get to college, start getting interested in medicine. So go from college to medical school, and you have to do your residency training, and kind of life happens. And by the time residency is over, I'm married. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter. We're thinking about a second child, and it just didn't seem the right time.
Yeah.
So joined private practice, where I've been since then. And then 9/11 happened. And so in the few years following that, they just didn't have enough surgeons. They were desperately short. They weren't meeting the needs that they needed for the soldiers. So talked to my wife in 2003, and I said, I'm thinking of joining the Army Reserves. What do you think? And she asked me if I was on drugs.
Valid.
We were, at that time, expecting our second child. And I said, well, look, I get that point. And so she made a deal with me. She said, when our youngest starts kindergarten, if you still want to do it, we'll make a way to find it work. And so 2008, in August, Nathan started kindergarten. 2 months later, I was sworn in. I'd already been in private practice for 7 years.
Wow.
So I went through basic training at the tender age of 37. Now, look, to be fair, basic training for the medical corps is not nearly as hardcore as the basic training you're thinking.
So you're saying you don't have to do as many sit-ups?
Yeah.
No, I mean, look at me. I mean, that's a non-starter, but it was a blast. I mean, we do everything else. We do weapons training and all that, and so finished that. 2010, got sent to Kuwait and Iraq as a general surgeon. If you're any surgical specialty, you get sent as a general surgeon. And then did 2 more deployments in Afghanistan, where they sent me as a trauma surgeon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, because that's remarkable. My husband's brother, he was a ranger in the Army. He's out now, but he went to Kuwait, Afghanistan. He did several deployments. So thank you.
We
very
probably
much.
stopped some of the same
Yes.
dirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Well, with such a busy career in the medical field as well as with your veteran service, what really stands out is you serve on a number of boards as well, right? A lot of people are like, hey, I've had my career, I'm good, I'm just going to stick to this. What inspired you to serve on the boards for the Independence Fund, the community college? Kind of where did that come from?
Well, Independence Fund and Interpreting Freedom Foundation kind of came out of my military service. So Independence Fund is dedicated to doing assistance for catastrophically wounded veterans. It initially started as an organization that developed all-terrain wheelchairs.
Cool.
Yeah.
So soldiers could enjoy outdoor activities just like they could before, and it's expanded. It's a nationwide program. It is under the leadership of someone named Sarah Verardo, who's just a force of nature. And so I started through my military service, and the Interpreting Freedom Foundation is dedicated to assisting Afghans who were able to escape and are trying to establish a life in the United States. And the head of that is a dear friend of mine named Zia. He was a interpreter for the United States military, assisting us. Afghan native, was a bona fide hero in Afghanistan. If you ever look into, there was a battle called the Battle of Shok Valley, S-H-O-K. It's one of the few engagements in military history where 2 participants got the Medal of Honor. And Zia was one of the interpreters that spent hours pulling wounded soldiers, American soldiers, out of fire, under fire.
Wow.
And so these folks are getting here, especially after the Afghan withdrawal, they get here with nothing. And so we're kind of set up to help them in any way we can, getting them education, getting them vehicles, getting them groceries.
That's really cool.
And, we owe those folks a debt that we can never repay. Community College Board, I joke that it kind of came out of my big mouth. So initially, I got involved with the community colleges because soldiers were getting out of the military and they weren't getting educational or certification. I invented a new word on this podcast. You heard it here today.
He is that smart.
Certification in the civilian world for training that they'd already had.
Yep.
All right, and the reason that's a problem is these folks get out of the military and they have GI Bill funds, but they were using all of their GI Bill to take classes to learn things they already knew.
Yeah.
And by the time they got to the point that they could get somewhere new in their career, they exhausted their college funds, and it just made no sense. So I started working as a veterans advocate to get where, like for instance, someone who wanted to become a paramedic, it was going to be years for them to do it. We cut it down to less than a year.
So get them into working in a civilian
Right.
field
Because if they
faster.
get it while they're in the Army, it doesn't move over. Like if they were to come here and wanted
Correct.
to be a paramedic, they would have to go through, I have friends that have
Right.
been through that. They will have to go through the schooling here, even though they were doing it on the battlefield.
Yeah, under fire.
that's-
Under
yeah,
fire.
Yeah.
that's-
And it's much better now, but I was a pretty vocal advocate for that, and so Speaker of the House Tim Moore called me and he said, I like what you're doing, would you be interested in doing this statewide? And having no idea what that meant, I was like, well, yes sir, of course. And he goes, well good, I'm going to nominate you for the Board of Community College. I was like, well alrighty then, I guess we're doing it. But it's been fantastic. It's been very gratifying work.
So what all do they do with the community colleges? Like, do they bring in all kinds of new programs, things like that? Like, kind of what all does that entail?
What's the role of the board?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, the board, kind of in simple, the state board oversees the North Carolina Community College system. We are the oversight for them to make sure that they're following the rules, to support them in any way we can. So it's not only compliance with laws, it's approving new programs at any of the 58 campuses of the community colleges. It's advocating for the system, both from the legislature and other funding sources. And it's just been, put me in a position where I can advocate what's important for me to a whole new level.
That's awesome. I know that Rowan Cabarrus Community College does a lot of great work here in Cabarrus County.
Yes, they do.
And Rowan County. But they really work closely with like the small businesses, and I think are a great example of what community colleges are. But I realize that's not every county has such a great relationship with their community college. So to make sure you're taking models that are great and applying them across the state is something I think we should be proud of as a county.
I agree. I mean, they laugh at me at the state board meetings because I'm like the head pom-pom cheerleader for Rowan Cabarrus Community College. We'll bring up an issue and I'll be like, well, at Rowan Cabarrus. And they're like, yes, Grant, we know. They do everything perfectly. But I will say, we've got a great system, but I will say, I'm biased, but I still can defend this, is that Rowan Cabarrus is one of the crown jewels of our community college system.
It's a great job. So with your work on other boards, a lot of people think of serving on a board, right, is just, you sit at a board meeting once a month and you guys don't really do anything. Kind of what's the nitty gritty that you guys get into? What does a meeting look like?
I really wish that was the case, because that would be great. But I mean, especially in these larger organizations, you're going to usually meet about once a month. So when you get there, there's a lot of things to go over, not only from the previous month, but kind of strategically what you're doing ahead. We recently had new leadership with the community college board that rotates every 2 years. We have a new chairman. His name's Tom Looney, who we're very excited about, a very proactive guy. They had a lapse of judgment, and they elected someone for vice chair that I think is woefully unqualified, by the name of Grant Campbell.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, that guy's trouble. But so you're kind of, half the meeting you're catching up with what's happened with the past month, and the rest of it you're trying to kind of strategically plan. So look, you can, if you want to be a board member, I tell people you can do as little as you want to. But if you're doing that, you're not really being an effective board member. You're supposed to serve there. These are, I tell folks, they're not-for-profit organizations. You're not getting paid to be on these boards. So you need to have a dedication to it. And you'll learn pretty quickly if there's anybody there that's like, this looks like something that'll look great on my resume. Those folks are not going to last very long. You need to have a passion for it. And if you don't, it's okay to not accept a position. But it's a lot of work outside of those. I've also learned that the vice chairman particularly has a lot of work outside the monthly meetings, but I don't mind putting the work in if it's worth it, and it's worth it.
Yeah. If somebody has an idea about like what they want to see from a community college, I know that a lot of apprenticeship programs or doing the community college route is now more popular, and we're seeing that if these businesses have ideas for the community college, how would you say they send you recommendations?
Boy, I promise I did not plant that question. One of the exciting things about community college system is right now we're in a crisis, but it's a good kind of crisis. The workforce availability in our state is not where it needs to be, mainly because the state for 2 years in a row, has been the number one state for new businesses. Now, when they come in, they have a demand for workers. And what I've taken as my personal crusade is I'm fine with enticing new businesses to come to a community. I think that that's fantastic. I'm actually okay with giving them incentives on 2 conditions.
Okay.
Is that I'm a data guy, I've been a physician my whole life, is that the money the community gets back has to be greater than the incentive we're giving the company.
Right.
Number 2 is these job opportunities can't be imported. Okay, if we're going to give you incentives to come into our community, we want those higher paying jobs, those opportunities to come to citizens of this county. So I took that to the community college system and said, look, we have to be ready. When we start talking to businesses about coming to the state, that's when the community colleges get involved and say, what positions are you going to need, what training you're going to need, so we can set that up. So it's not when they open their door and they're like, well, we don't have anybody here that can do this job, they're going to start hiring people from outside.
The pipeline's ready to go.
Yeah. So again, common theme, my big mouth in doing these things. I got voluntold that I'm now the chairman of the Workforce Development Committee of the Community College System. So the answer to your question, if you're a business and you want to set up apprentice jobs, if you want to find out if there's programs that can train workers for you, if you want to set up things where students can come and observe so you can recruit them, call me. Erase that. Campbell G at nccommunitycolleges.edu.
I will make sure to put it in the show notes as well, so you can find that.
It's really good. And Rowan Cabarrus actually has several apprenticeship programs. So my family's company, we have 3 guys in one of their apprenticeship programs, and 2 of them, I think it's their second year. They're in their second year, so they. Not to brag about Rowan Cabarrus again, but they do have.
Go ahead. They're the best.
They do. They have some great. I mean, electrical, welding. I mean, they've got a lot to offer.
It's a win-win for both sides. Well, for all sides, you have residents of the community that are going to get training for a higher paying job. You've got a community college system that can develop a new program for the future. And then you have employers who are participating in training these workers so they know they're hiring someone that knows what they're doing and they can hit the ground running doing the job. Everybody wins.
Yeah, I think it's great, especially with so many kids coming out of high school that may not want to go to a 4-year, college. It's like we need trade people. Like that is a dire need because
and they're lucrative jobs.
Yeah, and a lot of the people in trades are aging. They're getting older, and there's not the younger workforce to kind of replace them. So I think it's great that you're pushing that, so that way it gives these people, especially in our county, when they graduate, hey, you can go to these community college and you can learn a trade and you can get your certifications, and they come out making really good money and know a skill that will last in a lifetime.
I'll give you a perfect example, and we are trying to change this mind shift. Is that it seems like there has to be this straight line of like, okay, you finish high school, you better go to college. Okay, here's an example I'll give, and I've talked to high school students about this. There are programs in our system. You can come out of high school 17, 18 years of age. We can put you in, I'll give you an example, a lineman working program that's an 18-month training program to get certified. And I will tell you, halfway through those programs, every one of them already have a job. These guys, so they come out of that program 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're making close to 6 figures.
That's awesome.
Okay, you don't have to have a 4-year college degree, and I'm a 4-year college degree guy, but a lot of companies are saying, I don't particularly care if you've had a couple of classes in Northeastern European Renaissance poetry. And if you like that, God love you, and I'm happy for you. But we've got to get out of this mindset that there's only one direction out of high school, not only to meet our workforce needs, but there are tons of high-paying jobs that you can get certified for very quickly.
And there are things that we're going to need. I mean, we're always going to need electricity. We're always going to need water for plumbing, HVAC. So, I mean, that's...
Welding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I actually had talked to a lady at the college the other day that they have the welding apprenticeship that you can do the regular welding one, and they also have it for unions. So if you're a union person, they offer both. So I thought that was really neat.
That's awesome.
And look, I am. I'm bragging on the community college system. But what I told when we started having these meetings about workforce development, I said there's no system in the state that can respond to workforce needs efficiently and flexible and rapid as the community college system. We find a business, what do you need? We'll design a program that needs to meet it. And luckily the campuses have bought in. And look, the bottom line, and the reason I do this is it's opportunity for people. I want you to, and the other thing that we've done, and this was a mindset we had to change too, is that they would just create these programs and have a daytime curriculum. And the point I made to them is I said, a lot of these folks are working already.
Yeah.
They can't quit their job for 18 months to get a higher paying job. They have a family, they have bills, they have rent, they have car insurance.
Life goes on.
Yeah, so we're developing these classes to do in the evenings, to do on the weekends.
That's awesome.
We're even looking at nursing programs that do evening school, because if you want to talk about worker shortage, please be a nurse. Okay, I'll do anything you need to be a nurse. We don't have enough, but we've got to, it's such a catchy phrase, and I don't mean it to be so cliche, but you got to meet people where they are and find the solution that works for them, not just what sounds good to you on a PowerPoint. Go out there and talk to people, and if they say, I'd love to do this, but I work from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I'm like, well, how about an evening class? And they're like, please.
Which is great, because a lot of people, like you say, with work and everything, they may want to better themselves or, start a new career, but can't because they have responsibilities, or they wait, they got married, they had kids, and now they're like, oh, I would love to go back and learn this, but
Yeah.
I have all these things during the day. So I think it's great that you volunteer to help all the citizens around here to be able to accomplish their school dreams.
Listen, I came from a very poor family. And so my mission, as my grandfather told me, he said, if you are at a point in life where you are able to help someone who's willing to help themselves, you are honor bound to help them in any way you can. And, my grandfather was one of those guys, if he said it, it was gospel. But, it's, you reach a point in life where you feel like you're doing fine. Okay, what are you going to do for someone else? And doing these things, I'm getting way more out of it than they're getting from me. So I enjoy it. The hours are terrible, but I've been an obstetrician for 25 years. I don't sleep anyway, so I'm happy to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Well, that is kind of wrapping up, Grant. We're going to have you come back to talk more about the Independence Fund and the Interpreting Freedom Foundation and those missions, but I will still link that information below, so if you want to learn more about those, you can. Thank you so much for your leadership. We have a great leader here in Cabarrus County, that's on top of everything you do in your day job of delivering babies.
No,
So-
just a slow day.
Yeah, he said, I might be able to come, but I might have to schedule in a surgery real quick before that. So we really appreciate it, Dr.
My pleasure,
Campbell.
guys, my pleasure.
So if you have any suggestions for guests or you have any questions for us, please feel free to email us at cabcopod@gmail.com. Also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CabCo Collective. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.